Hey, everybody, welcome to the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Dan Labbe and Mary Kay Cabot with you here recording this Thursday afternoon. And we're going to do some fill in the blanks, true and false today, talking about the 2026 Cleveland Browns. So, Mary Kay, let's get right to it. And we're going to talk about this rookie class. It has really been, aside from the quarterback battle, one of the stories of the offseason is how this rookie class has looked. So, the question here is the best Browns rookie in 2026 will be blank.
I think it's a good one because there are a number of candidates that could win this category, right? We saw some really nice performances in OTAs and mini camp. So we could probably bat around 3 or 4 different names for this one, but I think I'm going to go with KC Concepcion here. I just feel like he's going to have a really nice season. I think they are going to target him a ton. I think it's easier to quantify how a receiver performs as opposed to your number 9 overall left tackle. So I think I'm going to go with KC. I think he's going to hit the ground running. I think he will be on the field in 2 wides, 3 wides, 4 wides, 1 wide. And so I just think that he has a very good chance of winning this one.
Yeah, we use this name a lot on the pod, but when you see KC Concepcion, it's so easy to sort of see Zay Flowers too. And of course, the Todd Monken coming from Baltimore the last 3 years probably sees a little bit of those comparisons as well. I mean, they're like about the same size. They were drafted about the same spot. I mean, there's just a lot. There's almost too many similarities. It almost feels too easy, but I just think that's one of the better comparisons. And Zay Flowers was a guy that for Baltimore got targeted a ton, used in a bunch of different ways. And I just, I'll come up with somebody else here, but just to keep talking about KC a little bit, like I think that variety of how he's going to be used, the variety of how he's going to get the football. And I do think there's going to be some weeks where he has like 3 drops and people are going to be mad. But then I think the next week he'll have 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. We're going to see a lot from KC Concepcion. And the other part of this too is the punt return. So it's not just, could he have a big year catching the football, but he's probably going to be their punt returner too. So let's say he also throws in 2 punt return touchdowns this year or 3 punt return touchdowns. Then we're talking about a guy that made an absolutely huge difference on this team.
Absolutely 100%. And when you draft someone in the first round, especially a skill player, you are expecting big production out of them right from the jump. Now, even when you get to the second round, you're not necessarily viewing that player as someone who could end up winning this type of category, although I think Denzel Boston certainly can. And I also think that E-Man certainly can. But I think that they are going to really showcase KC Concepcion. And I think that Todd Monken is going to find all kinds of things that he can do with KC Concepcion, as you mentioned, in some of those Zay Flowers roles, jet sweeps and lots of motions and just from the inside, on the outside, you name it, he's going to be doing it. And he gets great separation. He's great run after catch. And let's see how he does in the red zone and in the end zone. But he's going to be dynamite this year for them, by all accounts. And that's what it really looks like it's going to be. And I think he's got an excellent chance.
So I actually am going to give a little love here to the number 9 overall pick. And I'm going to say Spencer Fono. And I know that's, I mean, like you were saying, it's really hard to quantify how we'll talk about, hey, how does Spencer Fono win this if KC Concepcion has 900 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns, or Denzel Boston has 700 or 800 yards and 6 touchdowns. Emmanuel McNeil Warren has 4 interceptions. Well, whatever all of those stats can look like. So how do you kind of quantify what a left tackle is compared to those? So statistically, that's going to be difficult, but he sort of has flown under the radar in a lot of ways just because of his personality, just because there were 2 receivers taken after him. And those are glamour positions. Those are the guys people want to talk about. But I could see us getting to the end of the season and maybe there's some growing pains. I think there'll be growing pains with all these guys. But if we see Spencer Fono hold up just game after game after game, and we get through the season saying, yeah, this is the guy at left tackle. The Browns nailed this pick. I think that would be the case for saying Spencer Fono would be the Browns' best rookie. And I just don't think it's going to be like a disaster with him. I don't think we're going to be looking at this and saying, man, they really whiffed on this. Now, again, there could be growing pains and maybe it's not quite as good as they want it to be, but I think he's going to be really good and he's going to hold up. And so I'm going to go ahead and give Spencer Fano some love here because it's just because of the nature of the position and the other guys they picked. We just haven't really talked about him that much.
It's a good one, Dan. And when you take someone in the top 10, you really expect them to play at a Pro Bowl level in their first year. That's what you expect. It's the kind of performance that you got from a Carson Schlesinger in his rookie year, where you feel like that player could actually be a Pro Bowler or an All Pro. And of course, Carson Schlesinger ended up earning NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year honors. So that is what you really kind of expect from a Spencer Fano. And if he's doing his job, we won't even be hearing his name all that much. When you hear about a left tackle half the time is when they're giving up a sack or giving up a pressure or something goes wrong in that regard. But if he's doing his job the way that he should, we won't be hearing his name. We won't be hearing him getting called for penalties and whatnot. He will just be quietly protecting the quarterback and figuring this whole thing out. He has to make that transition from the right side back over to the left side, where he played in his rookie season at Utah. His final 2 seasons, he started at right tackle there. So he does have a little bit of a learning curve. We'll see how that goes. But he should be able to hit the ground running. And the good thing for him, too, is the fact that if it is Deshaun Watson, Deshaun is mobile enough, and really Shedeur Sanders is mobile enough too, to slip away from some sacks and to get themselves out of a little bit of trouble. Nobody's a statue back there. Really, not that many quarterbacks in the NFL are at all anymore. So he will have that going for him. And I think he'll be excellent in the run blocking realm. So he does have a chance to go out there and win this one as well.
Yeah, I do think the one good thing O linemen have going for them now is obviously there's the PFF stuff, so that helps you quantify a little bit. You know, even if I don't always love PFF grades, but at least helps you put things in perspective in that regard. And also just social media. Like if he's getting out in front on some of these runs and pancaking some guys, and then if he's going against a really good edge rusher and kind of holding his own, those clips are going to get out there and we're going to see those clips making the rounds. Brian Baldinger is probably, maybe he'll do a Spencer Fano breakdown on Twitter at some point. So that is one area where it's like, okay, now we can kind of see, okay, this guy's really good, even though that could be hard to quantify statistically. So I think Spencer Fano is going to have some of those moments, especially in the run game, where he's gets out, gets on the move, and clears the way for a Quinshon Judkins touchdown or something like that. So I think he has a chance to do this. Okay, next one. This is a true or false. So we actually threw out 10 wins earlier. Well, we didn't throw it out. One of our texters threw it out in a Hey Mary Kay question earlier this week. Is there basically a scenario where the Browns could get to 10 wins? We're going to back things off just a little bit for this one, Mary Kay. True or false? The Browns will win more than 7 games this season. So minimum 8 and 9. The Browns will win more than 7 games. True or false?
Well, Las Vegas doesn't think really necessarily they're going to win 7 games this season. I think the over-under is still at 6.5, isn't it, Dan? The last I saw, I think that's what it was.
I'll see if I can look it up here while you're talking.
Okay, so Vegas is not loving what's going on yet with the Cleveland Browns. So I don't know. I mean, it is kind of interesting that even though they added so much firepower on the offensive side of the ball, even though they got something really good in return for Myles Garrett, I'm sure that knocked them down some to trade away Myles Garrett, the best defensive player in the land. So I think Vegas is still hovering around 6.5 victories for the Cleveland Browns. And so we put ours at 7 today on the true and false. And I think it's a very interesting debate. I think we picked the right number to kind of go back and forth with here right now. And I am going to say true. The Browns will win more than 7 games. And I'm saying that because I guess in part because so many things went wrong last year and they still somehow pulled out 5 victories. I feel like if that football team with so much inconsistency at quarterback and with a tougher schedule than they had this year, um, I feel like if that team could win 5 games, that the Browns of 2026 with KC and with Denzel and with some of the rookies now another year older and ready to elevate their game like Harold Fannin and Quinshawn Judkins and Dylan Sampson and Carson Schlesinger and Mason Graham, I kind of feel like the youngsters might rise to the occasion and be able to pull out 8 victories. Sometimes ignorance can be bliss, right? You don't know that you're not supposed to go out and beat a veteran football team. You're young, you're hungry, you have something to prove. And I think there's going to be some of that with this football team as long as they get some good quarterback play and some good leadership. We need to see who the leaders are of this football team, and they're going to need some replacement leaders. Joel is gone. Miles is gone. So some of these younger guys or some of these newer guys are going to have to step up into the leadership space. But if they can get that, and if those second year players add to their repertoire and add and build on what they did last year, I think they can get to 8 victories.
So I did look it up. FanDuel and DraftKings both have them at 5.5 as the win total. So
Oh, it went down in the
yeah,
after.
so I mean, like you can bet on 6.5, and you can bet on like lower numbers too. But the numbers that are the most aligned with the odds are 5.5. So
Wow.
that's
Okay.
kind of where they're at right now on both of those sites. I am gonna say false here,
Hmm.
because now I don't think this is like a 2-win football team, and part of that is because we watched this team last year, and I think they were more of a mess last year, and they won 5 games. But I just have too many questions about a couple of key things. And the first thing is quarterback. I just don't know what they're going to get out of the quarterback position this year. Obviously, if one of these two guys, surprises and we've kind of been setting that bar at like, can you be middle of the road, 15th, 16th best? That gives you at least a chance to score some points. And the offensive line should be better. So the run game should be better. Your receivers should be better, even though they're still really young. Those guys a couple of those guys should be able to help right away. I think Isaiah Bond will be better. We'll see about Jerry Jeudy, but I have too many questions about quarterback and what that's going to look like. And the other kind of wrench that gets thrown into this is, and we're going to talk a little more about Jared Verse here in a minute, but like even though I really like Jared Verse and I thought Andrew Berry did really well to get Jared Verse back in that trade, it does create a big question mark on that defense. Like, what is this defense going to look like without Myles Garrett? Is it going to be, did we overrate Miles's presence, or are we underrating Miles's presence a little bit? Like, how is this going to look like with Jared versus your number one edge rusher? Tyson Campbell now playing a full season. Is he going to pick up where he left off, or are we going to see some of the cracks that made Jacksonville maybe want to move on from him? I think this defense is going to be good, but I just think there's more questions about this defense than there were a month ago. And that still to me is the bread and butter of this football team. Like, if they're going to win, yes, obviously it's going to be because maybe their quarterback play is better and they score some more points, but it's still going to be, I think, on the back of this defense. So I can't say they're going to go 8-9, basically, is what I'm saying. I have sort of settled in that. I mean, I'm probably right around that Vegas number. I'm probably leaning like a 6, not like 4, but I'm not ready to say that they can win more than 7 games.
And it's hard right now to predict because we don't know who the starting quarterback is going to be. And we don't know what the starting quarterback is going to look like. Even if you told me right now in this minute that Deshaun Watson was going to be the starting quarterback, I don't know that that would change my mind very much about anything because we don't know exactly what he's going to look like coming off of these surgeries and coming off of this very, very long layoff. So it's very, very hard to predict how that's all going to come together. There have been times, there have been flashes in OTAs, there have been flashes in minicamp where he's looked really, really good. But It's fool's gold. Nobody knows yet how either of these two guys are going to do at quarterback and if they're going to be able to maximize the ability of Harold and Isaiah and all of these guys against live competition. So it's so difficult to predict. And as you mentioned, in the defensive space, there are still a lot of unknowns, even though they have most of their personnel returning and most of their defensive staff returning. There are still a lot of things that we just don't know yet. How is Jared Verse going to fare in his new role on a new defense in a 4-3 base? How is Mason Graham going to pick it up from what he did last year? What is Carson Schlesinger going to do this year? What does Denzel have to offer this year as he's another year older? Can Tyson Campbell pick his game up a notch? Grant Delpit, if he gets a new deal, what kind of an impact will that have on his game? And then E-Man, what is E-Man going to do and bring to the table? If these guys can force some turnovers, that's the great equalizer. They need takeaways. This defense needs takeaways, and there should be a heavy, heavy emphasis on that. Quincy Williams, all of those guys, they've really got to focus on punching that ball out, intercepting it, and making those big impact plays. That's where this defense can take another step up this year.
Yeah, and I think there is going to be a heavier emphasis on that secondary. So that's part of what's going to make this defense look a little bit different. But I just have I still believe like that this franchise is pointed in the right direction with the talent they've added. But I don't know if that's going to necessarily translate to a ton more wins this year. And some of that too, like another big question is Todd Monken. We know Todd Monken is a good offensive coach. We've seen what he can do on that side of the ball. We've never seen Todd Monken head coach in the NFL. We don't know what that's going to look like. So that's another big question in all of this. So I just think there's too many unknowns. And I do think, and it's easy to say this in June, maybe somebody will have to hold me to this in December. I do think there's a world where maybe this team doesn't win a ton of games. Maybe they are in that 5 to 6 win range, but you can still feel good about the direction of things if they can figure out quarterback and sort of finish off this roster next offseason.
Right. And the other thing about that is if they only do somehow manage to win 5 games, well, would it be the end of the world heading into the 2027 quarterback rich draft with 2 first-round picks to have a shot at some of the best quarterbacks in that class? And it's supposed to be perhaps a generational quarterback class. We never know exactly how that's going to turn out. But, it just might not be the end of the world if they don't win as many games as perhaps the Haslams hope they do. The other thing to consider here, once again, of course, is strength of schedule. They have, by win-loss records of last year, the easiest schedule in the NFL, and then projected win totals, the 4th easiest schedule in the NFL. So we'll see how that all works out. But I think it's meaningful, but canceled out just a little bit by the fact that 6 of the first 9 are on the road.
Yeah, well, and another part of it too is the division. Like, how good are these teams that, like, we think Cincinnati's going to kind of bounce back, but we don't know for sure. So how good are they going to be? Baltimore, I think, even with a new coach, you can kind of take to the bank. But there is, because of that new coach factor, a guy that's never been an NFL head coach, you do at least wonder what it looks like. And they've had a lot of turnover, obviously, on their coaching staff in general. And then Pittsburgh is starting Aaron Rodgers again. He's back in his 40s. And, this team has actually had some success against the Steelers the last few years. So, if the division isn't quite what it has been in years past, and last year it was certainly down a little bit, that's 6 games right there that could make the difference between if you win more than 7 or less than 7. So let's talk a little Jared Verse. As I mentioned, Jared Verse will end the season with blank sacks.
Well, I had a number that came to my mind, and that is going to be my story, and I'm sticking with it. I think he can get.
Can I try and guess?
Yeah, go ahead, guess.
11?
Wait, let me write it down. So,
Oh, I already said it.
oh, you said what? What did you say?
Oh, you didn't hear it? Okay, write it down.
Okay, I got it.
11.
What did you say?
I said 11.
No,
Okay.
You see that?
I can't. What does it say? 9?
Nine. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, the reason why I say 9 is because that is still a step up from the 7.5 that he had last year. And right now, I mean, they had some really good pass rushers that he played with, right? I mean, he had his good friend Byron Young had more sacks than Jared Verse did last year. Right now, they don't have anybody else like that that is going to be threatening to get double digit sacks per se. Alex Wright has a shot. Malik Collins has a shot. But unless they go out and get another accomplished edge rusher, it might be difficult for him to avoid getting double teamed. And so that's going to be a little bit of a new world for him to take on probably as many double teams and as much extra attention as he's going to get this year. And he's going to have to find a way to beat that. And he's also going to have to find a way to add to his pass rush repertoire and get a few new moves and change things up a bit. Jacques Césaire is a very good defensive line coach. He will find ways to help him find his rush and find his edge rush voice. But there probably will be a little bit of a learning curve. Once again, he's moving from a 3-4 into a 4-3. He's with all different players. He's with a new defensive coordinator, and there might be somewhat of a learning curve. So I think moving up to 9 is probably, a pretty fair guess. We don't want to put too much pressure on him, but yet he needs to be moving the needle.
I think I might have said 11 just because I watched This Is Spinal Tap over the weekend, which is a classic, and there's that these go to 11 scene, so maybe I just had 11 in my mind. And I actually think that might be just the number I go with, since that's the number that popped into my head. But when I'm looking at this right now, and again, like I said, with PFF grades, they are what they are. But when you look at that defensive line that the Rams had last year, it was just across the board a dominant group. And you have, it's 4 guys counting Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Jared Verse, and Puna Ford. All had really good pass rush grades, and 3 of those guys, including Verse, were graded over 80 by PFF. Puna Ford was at 76, and then even Josiah Stewart, who was like their 3rd edge rusher, ended up with a 74 grade. Like that was a really good defensive line in LA, and he's coming to a place now where, like you said, that Alex Wright still kind of has to prove it and develop a little bit. Isaiah McGuire, same thing. Julian Okwara, whoever's over there. The good news is they should be good on the interior. With if Malik Collins is healthy, if Mason Graham continues his development, he should get help from the inside, which I think is going to be good for him. But the challenge with Jared is, like, you're the guy now. You were the guy at times in LA, but also Byron Young was the guy a lot of times there. So all of that attention is going to be focused on you. So how are you going to sort of deal with that and adjust to that? And he's going to need some other guys on that line to step up and help create some of those one-on-one matchups. But I'm just going to say 11, just for the sake of just in honor of Spinal Tap. These go to 11, so I'll go with that number.
That's nicely optimistic. And if his trajectory continues, then he will have 11, because I think he had 3.5 or 4.5 in his first season, I think, and then moved up to 7.5. So 11 would track for him. Now, one thing I think they're going to need to do, and will probably try to do, is bring in another edge rusher. And I don't think that there are that many available right now. Hassan Reddick might still be out there. Leonard Floyd might still be out there. There might be a couple of guys that shake free in some of the cuts. But there, it's not like there's 5, 6, 7 of those guys sitting around sort of waiting for a job. And maybe you make a trade for one or something like that. But I do think that they could use another dangerous weapon on that other side.
All right, this is always a fun one because there's so many directions you could go with this. But we're going to look way ahead here to December. The starting quarterback, week 15, will be blank. I actually don't even know who they're playing week 15. I should look that up. But the starting quarterback, week 15, will be blank.
It's a loaded question. It's a loaded question because we don't even know who the starting quarterback is going to be in week 1 right now. But because the Cleveland Browns usually blow through a number of quarterbacks, wow, this is very interesting. It could be Dylan Gabriel by week 15. I mean, it could be Dylan Gabriel by that.
Week
If
week
he
15 is the New York Giants, by the way,
the
at New York.
New York Giants at New York going against John Harbaugh. I think I'm going to say Shador Sanders. I think I'm going to go with Shador because let's say Deshaun starts the season, depending on how things go, if he plays well, that's great. And he'll keep going as long as he can. We don't know if he's going to stay healthy. If he's not, I think they're going to get to their second quarterback at some point. If it's Shador, I think they would just stick with him for the rest of the season if there were an injury or something like that. So if Shador steps in week 8, I think they're going to kind of just let him play out the string like he did last year. So I think I'm going to go with Shador.
I was going to say Shador too, sort of the same thinking. I'll ask this though. If Shador is the week 1 starter, are you sticking with Shador or would you go a different direction here? He's pretty durable.
Yeah, he's pretty durable. I might go in a different direction though, because I think it is very difficult to have your quarterback start all 17 games. And if you're
Yeah.
getting to week 15 and you started in week 1, you're pretty darn close to playing all of the games. So, so if Shador wins the starting job, I'm actually thinking that maybe someone else is playing in week 15 and maybe it's Deshaun. There's so many different ways that this can go. We gave ourselves a trick question here, Dan.
Yeah, we really did. Did you consider Taylon Green at all?
For a start there, no, I really did not. I did not consider him for a start. For whatever reason, I had Dylan more apt to start in week 15 than Taylon Green, but he might not even be on the team by then, right? I
Yeah.
mean, he could be traded August 30th. He could be traded at the trade deadline, or he could be around as the third string quarterback and start this game. So there are plenty of candidates. I think I'm going to have to let you pick this one.
Well, I was going to say Shador. That was going to be my answer just because even if the season isn't going great, I still think he's going to have a pretty long leash as long as, I mean, we watched Deshaun Kaiser start 17 games or 16 games for this team when they went 0-16. And, they just kind of stuck with him because you had to find out about him. And I think Shador, you're still going to be in a mode where you want to find out about him, even if it doesn't always look great or whatever. Like, I just don't know that. I don't know. I don't know if they'd have a real quick, real short leash on him necessarily if we've gotten to this point and he was the week 1 starter. So I think that's going to be my answer. I also, I thought about the Taylon Green thing, but in the back of my mind, I still wonder if part of their gamble on Taylon Green is like, yeah, we're going to work with you and develop you and let you be a quarterback, but we're also going to be in on the ground floor if you ever change your mind about that and decide maybe you want to go the Terrell Pryor route and see what this looks like as a receiver or a tight end or something. So I almost wonder if that was part of their thinking in taking him. Dylan Gabriel's interesting. Well, I mean, we can talk a little more about that because if he's on the roster and you're getting to week 15, it might depend on how the season is going. Maybe you want to give him a few starts at the end just to kind of see what's there, see if you can up some trade value, something like that. So, as we know, covering the Browns, this is wide open. But my answer was going to be the same as yours, Shador. Even, kind of in the same scenario where Deshaun wins the job and starts early, and then at some point Shador ends up taking over for whatever reason.
Maybe it will be Joshua Dobbs.
Yeah, well, I was going to try and come up with some random free agent name or something like that, Jeff Driscoll or something.
Or Snoop Huntley. I mean, you just have no idea exactly where this whole thing is going to be going and what the quarterback room will even look like on week 15. Stranger things have happened, right? I mean, absolutely stranger things have happened. But I do think there's a world in which Shador will finish out the season just like he did last year. There is a world in which if Dylan Gabriel makes this football team that, like you said, maybe they might want to see if they can bump his trade value a little bit. So this could go so many different ways. And now we're going to have to put this on our phones to remind ourselves in week 15 against the New York Giants to go back to this and remember this debate that we had about this and what we thought could possibly happen and what actually does happen in real time.
Yeah, because if people think I can remember what I said 6 months ago, they're crazy. There's no way I'm gonna remember that I said this. So yeah, we
Right.
need to put like a reminder that going into that game, hey, you said this guy would be the starter in week 15.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think I think both of us, if we had to pin ourselves down to somebody right now, I think we'd both say Shador. So let's
Yeah, yeah.
kind of go with that, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Kind of going full circle here. This last one. The receiver most likely to get 1,000 yards this year.
Well, well, well. This is it's a little bit tough because I think this could go in a number of ways. Now, when we say receiver, we're not counting Harold Fannin in this, correct?
So as I was reading this, I thought like, should we just say pass catcher most likely to get
Yes.
1,000 yards?
Yes. That makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, because I
I
was
mean,
wondering, could I find a loophole and put Fannin in as my choice here?
well, I think we have to decide. Do we want to make it easier on
I
ourselves?
I don't think I'm going to pick Fannin. I think 1,000 yards for a tight end is a lot. So I don't think I'm going to pick Fannin anyway. But we can put him in the mix.
All right, let's put him in the mix. If we're putting him in the mix, I'm going Harold Fannin. If we're putting him in the mix, I actually think that that he could get there. He got to 731 last year with a wonky quarterback situation. So I do think that he can get to 1,000 this year because I do think that he's going to be targeted a whole bunch this year, and he has that veteran experience now. He's got that whole rookie year under his belt, and I do think that there's a chance that he will elevate his game and just take it up that next notch and score more touchdowns and have 1,000 yards.
So I'm going to go to a guy we talked about right off the top, and it's going to be for a lot of the same reasons. I think I'm going to go KC because I think he's going to play a lot. I think he's going to get targeted a lot, and I think he's going to get a lot of yards after the catch. And I think that he's the guy that I'm looking at. Could he have 1,000 yards as a rookie? I don't think Denzel Boston is going to get enough opportunities. He's going to play, but I don't think he's going to get the amount of targets that like Casey is going to get, or Harold is going to get, or even Jerry Judy. Um, but I think all the ways they're going to use him, and all the ways he's going to get a chance to touch the football. I feel like Casey could be one of those rookies that has 1,000 yard season his rookie year. I think he could be one of those guys. I remember I looked this up a few days ago. Zay Flowers did not get to 1,000 yards. I think he was in the 900. He was a little over 900, I think. But I just feel like Casey's going to touch the football a lot, and he's going to be really dynamic. Again, if he drops the ball too much, then no. But as long as he cuts down on the drops, I just think it's going to be him. Interesting that neither of us throw at Jerry, though.
Yeah, I guess I think we just need to see
Yeah.
Jerry in a few games. We need to see him rebound. We need to see that he's gotten it back and that he is the Jerry of 2024 who made the Pro Bowl and got 1,000 yards. And these two new whippersnappers are in town. And I think you just sort of, it's recency bias. We saw so much of them. There's so much hype and so much excitement about the rookies that's why I think we feel this way. Now, we did answer this question a couple of weeks ago on a pod. And like you said, we don't remember what we said 2 weeks ago, but I do remember choosing Casey Concepcion as the 1,000 yard receiver when it was put to us that way, either by, maybe it was a ham K or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But I do think I do remember choosing Casey as the 1,000 yard receiver. And I still feel like if we are just confining it to wide receivers, I would go with KC as well. But when we open it up to pass catchers, that's when I decided to go with Harold. But I still feel the same way about KC. And who knows, maybe both of them will get 1,000 yards. I think that's what Todd Monken would love. to run that kind of to field that kind of an offense where two of your guys can get 1,000 yards. But certainly KC's going to get the targets, and as long as he hangs on, he will have his opportunity to get to 1,000.
Yeah, and I think Todd's offense is going to create easy yards for a guy like that, and I think the same probably with Fannin too. It's just going to create easy yards, easy opportunities to pile up some of those things. So, yeah, I think those are both good choices. And then with like you said with Jerry, we'll see. We'll kind of get into the season and see how he looks, see how he's getting used, all of that, and then we'll kind of figure that one out as we go. Okay, there we go. Some fill in the blanks, some true falses, some predictions. Like I said, we won't remember these in a month, but uh, wrapping up this week on the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Find all of our socials, search Orange and Brown Talk, give us a like and a follow. Our YouTube is Cleveland Browns on cleveland.com. And of course, if you're not a Football Insider subscriber, it's cleveland.com/Browns, the blue banner at the top of the page to get involved with that. Mary Kay, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds great.